everybody, it's Lady Mal. I'm back again. I'm getting back in the swing of things, so I thought I'd go ahead and do another vlog. I've been going through a lot of my email messages and have come up with kind of a theme for this one. It's really all about submissives. I know, big shocker, right? Um, but I actually have quite a few questions that have been asked, so I'm going to go ahead and cover them. I didn't write down names or usernames because I don't know how comfortable people are with me putting them out there. So if you hear your question, awesome. If not, email me again because it probably got lost somewhere. Okay, so the first question was, how did I know I was a submissive? Um, Honestly, I got into the scene when I was about 20, 21. And I had a friend that I was going to college with, and we had an ex in common, and that's how we got to be friends. And she was very much into the scene, already well established in the scene, and we got to talking about it one day, and I thought it sounded kind of interesting. So I kind of got into it online, kind of put some feelers out, and the more I read about it, the more it really appealed to me because honestly, in my family, I'm the exception. Most of the women in my family are extremely domineering to the point of being overpowering, controlling, that sort of thing. Extremely dominant personalities, whereas I am more reserved, obviously a submissive. So when I started looking into it, it wasn't so much as a light going off going, "Oh my God, I should be a submissive." It was, "Oh my God, I am a submissive." And I'm kind of okay with that. And so I hooked up with this one Dom, which, while it was a pretty terrible experience, it didn't dissuade me from staying in the scene. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about how to stand up for myself. The fact that just because I'm a submissive does not mean that I'm a doormat. Um, okay, story. This guy I met up with, the first time I met him, I did not see him for the first 4 hours because I was blindfolded, which, that's cool. It happens, whatever. Um, but we had discussed limits, hard limits, soft limits, the whole 9 yards. And I said the main thing, because this is my first experience, the main thing, I just want it to be him and I, nobody else. Well, it turns out that the whole time I was there, his friend was watching, which means I was naked in front of another complete stranger. I was doing all sorts of sexual things to myself and to him in front of this person. Then when he finally did take off the blindfold, he informed me that I was going to give his friend a lap dance and then I was going to have sex with them both, to which I said, "Screw you. I'm done. I'm out. Not going to happen." And he tried to put up a fight, said he wouldn't give me my clothes. I said, "Fine," and wrapped my big white happy butt in a sheet and left the hotel room and went down to the lobby and called my friend who had introduced me to the scene. She was in Houston as well visiting her Dom, and I called her and said, "You need to come get me and you need to go get my clothes." So her and her Dom came over and they picked up my clothes and my stuff for me and I left. Um, However, stupid me ended up going back out with this guy a couple of times until I realized that I was just getting used for sex, that it was no longer about kink or submission or domination or any of that. It was just he wanted sex. So I ended it. But it taught me a lot, and it didn't make me not want to stay in the scene. But again, it was just one of those things. I knew I was supposed to be a submissive, and I knew that I wanted to be owned by someone. I wanted to be controlled by someone. I wanted that feeling, but he wasn't the right guy. So I just kept looking. And I went through several tops and switches and whatnot, and finally ended up with my daddy. And so that's just how I knew I was a submissive. The next question is, how do you figure out if you're a submissive? Well, the first thing you have to think about is, are you able to give up complete control of, I don't want to say everything, but are you willing to give up control? If not 24/7, are you willing to give it up in the bedroom? Are you willing to give it up in certain circumstances? It really just depends. And if you are, well, then you can go from there. Are you willing to give it up 24/7? Are you willing to give up all control of everything? Are you only willing to give up a little bit? Um, do you want this to be a sexual thing, or do you want it to be a service related thing? Because you don't have to have sex to be a submissive. Please keep that in mind, because so many people equate, oh, you're a submissive, that means I can fuck you eight ways from Sunday and you can't say anything, and I probably should not have said that on YouTube, but oh well. Um, uh, but I mean, you can be a submissive as in you are a pain slut, and you give up control when you're in a sadist masochist situation, or you're just a submissive in bed, or you're just a submissive in the fact that you go cook and clean and take care and do menial tasks or whatever. There's so many different avenues that you can take when you're a submissive. Um, and remember that your submission is a gift. And if they abuse it, hit the road or kick them to the curb. One of the two, or both. You know, don't stay in that type of situation. Um, I was also asked about advice on meeting others. Obviously, there's FetLife. You can Google and see if there are any local groups in your area and go to their meet and greets or luncheons or munches or whatever they call them. I know in my area there are a couple, not that I've been recently, I've been in years past, but um, this is really not my thing. I've been to a couple in Houston, not my thing. I'm not a group joiner type of person. I'm more of a solitary practitioner sort of thing. I mean, I have friends that are in the kink community, and we hang out now and again, and that's cool. But I'm not big into the whole play party, go play in a public place sort of thing. I mean, I might, depending on if my daddy was interested, but that's just not us. Our kink is our own private time together. I mean, aside from me putting it all over YouTube, but it's not like I have videos of that up specifically. But really checking on FetLife, looking for local people on there, looking for local groups. Even if you don't go to a meeting, you might be able to meet someone via email and get to talk to them, and get on a webcam or talk on the phone or text or whatever. In today's day and age, there are so many ways to connect with people. You just got to do a little footwork and searching. Um, and again, I was asked how to avoid abuse. Well, it's real easy. If you think you're being abused, stop the scene, talk to the person and tell them, hey, this isn't kosher. I'm not okay with this. If they don't listen to you, that is a big old huge red flag to get gone. I mean, that's simple enough. The first time you meet up with someone, it's usually a good idea to have someone away from the situation that you can call or text or whatever to let them know, hey, I'm okay, I'm back. If they don't hear from you, they know to go looking for you, because as paranoid as that may seem, there are people out there that are just out to hurt and or kill people. And I always, when I was single, I always had someone to call or text when I was done to let them know I was okay. Um, because while you may seem like the nicest person on the in the world on a computer, tables get turned when you meet in person. So pretty much, if you feel like you're being abused, you need to stop and talk to your dominant and say, hey, this isn't cool. Or, if it's fairly obvious and you have people asking you, why did you accidentally run into the door 7 times? If you're making excuses, you're being abused. And I can say that because I've been in that situation. I have been in an abusive relationship, and it was terrible. I mean, I was verbally and emotionally abused. I was told that I was too fat, that I wasn't allowed to dye my hair because he didn't like that. And so I stopped dyeing my hair. I went on a freaking diet. I did everything I could to appease him. But it turns out that the whole time he was cheating on me with a woman that was twice my weight and dyed her hair blonde. So go figure. You know, uh, I had had enough when, we got into a fight and he threw a can of spray starch at me, and I caught it and threw it back and walked out and never looked back. I mean, it was pretty terrible. So, yeah, if you think you're being abused, or if you're telling your friends that, oh, it's okay, I just fell down, but you fall down like 3 times a day, probably being abused and you should get out. There are all kinds of resources if you think you can't get out. You have kids and you don't think you can leave. There are women and children, battered women and children's shelters that you can go to for help. You can go to your church. You can go to any church. Most of them will help you. Um, Go to your local police. Get a restraining order. Have them arrested for domestic abuse. It is against the law. Um, anyway, I'm preaching. Um, then I was asked to talk about the difference between brat subs and pet subs. Honestly, I don't really understand the question. Because if you're being bratty all the time, I mean, unless that's what your dom or daddy wants, that's really kind of topping from the bottom. I mean, yeah, I'm a brat from time to time, but it lasts about that long. And then we're back to, normal behavior, because being a brat is a sign of disrespect, because that means that you don't respect your dominant enough to follow his instructions. Um, I just really don't see the point. I mean, if that's what you're into and that's what your daddy's into, cool, awesome, rock on, make it work. But I personally have no idea how to make something like that work, because I couldn't be a brat for that long. I mean, I'm sarcastic and witty and whatever, but I don't even think I could pull it off for more than about 5 or 10 minutes. And pet subs. Pet is a very generic term. Uh, there are so many definitions of what a pet is that I would be here literally all day trying to define them all. Um, to me, and what I've seen in my experiences, is that a pet is almost like a porcelain doll. You're to be looked at and your arm candy and whatever, but that's kind of where it ends. You're more of an object than a person. And for me, that's not very, it doesn't blow up my skirt. But I mean, again, if that's what you're into, that's awesome. And like I said, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of responses of people telling me what a pet is. Please don't. Okay? I understand that it's my opinion. And opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one and they all stink. So, you know, I mean, a pet is a pet is a pet. I mean, I'm not considered a pet by mine and my daddy's definitions, but what you define as a pet and what your dominant defines as a pet may be completely different. And maybe that's what you want and that's what you are. And if that is, awesome, rock on. I'm happy for you. You know, um, really, I'm kind of at a impasse here because I have no idea. I mean, I know a lot of stuff and I'm usually never wrong. Just, ask my daddy because I'm always right. See, I can be witty and sarcastic. And bratty, but still, anyway. Um, then I got asked about long distance relationships and what I think about them and how to make them work. I think long distance relationships suck. Like, big old donkey balls suck. Because I've tried the long distance thing. I've tried long distance in state, out of state, in the nation, different nations. They all are crap. Because, especially if you're going from like one nation to another nation, the possibility of you meeting and actually forming an actual physical relationship are so small that it's not really worth it. I mean, cool, if you're single and they're single and you have no responsibilities and they have no responsibilities and one of you can move to the other, awesome. But if you're like me, you've got a kid or kids and you can't just up and move like that. Um, Even within state long distance relationships, well, I'll get back that one, but state to state within the nation, um, they're difficult. They can work. I mean, I had one with my daddy for a while, and that was really difficult. I mean, it took a lot of work on both of our parts, and that's not to say that it was always wine and roses. In fact, it was pretty downright terrible for a while. But then it got better because he moved in state. But even when he moved in state, he was still across the state because let's face it, Texas isn't exactly this big. It's huge. And it was easier, but I still didn't see him from July until October. There was that huge gap where I couldn't see him because it just wasn't feasible because he was working up in Dallas and I was living down here in Port Neches, which is like a 7-hour drive. I have a kid in school. I didn't really have a whole lot of money. What money I did have had to go towards stuff for my son. I was going through a divorce. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't feasible. And a lot of people run into that because In this day and age, if you've got a job, you want to keep it because it's hard to get a job. I can only speak for the United States, mind you. So the idea of moving somewhere where you don't have a job and you don't have any place to live except with this person that you don't really know because you've only talked to them online, and it goes against that whole safe thing and kind of on that whole sane thing, and the whole safe, sane, consensual thing. But if you want to try a long distance relationship, by all means do it. Do I recommend it? Absolutely not. The one that I've been involved in that actually worked out, which is me and my husband, um, it was worth it. Absolutely, in the end, it was. But the 2 years that it took to get to this point was very trying, and it was hard. But anyway, so yeah, I think that's about it. I've rambled quite a lot. Uh, don't forget to rate, subscribe, and comment down here. I will include my contact information. Also, starting October 1st, this year, my daddy and I, once a day, are going to review a horror movie. And we're sticking to the genre of exorcism movies, demon/angel movies, and religious themed movies. And every day we will have a different vlog review of one of these movies. Most of them will be complete with costumes, makeup, um, and here's a hint, one of them's going to be completely in Spanish, which I don't speak. I'm learning, and my daddy speaks it, but I'm doing an entire vlog in Spanish, but I promise right here, somewhere, I will include subtitles. But it's going to be all Halloween all month because daddy and I love Halloween. If I could have Halloween every day of the year, I would be totally happy, except for Christmas and like Thanksgiving and birthdays. Um, but Halloween is my all-time favorite. So, rate, comment, subscribe, leave me questions. If I haven't answered your question, email me again because it's probably gotten lost. And I will see y'all again soon. Bye bye.